Hey everyone, it's Aesah, and welcome to my video on matchup counterplay. By matchup counterplay, I simply mean adjusting your strategy specifically towards your opponents. This video was inspired by a discussion in the TFT coaching Discord that happened today, basically where someone was like, hey, when I'm playing TFT, I often feel like I'm kind of playing solitaire. I'm just making my board as strong as it can be without really considering what my opponents are playing. And I completely feel that sometimes when playing TFT. A lot of the game is definitely just focusing on making your own board as strong, and the reason is because you're playing against 7 other players. However, there are definitely some things you can do, especially if you recognize someone in the lobby is very likely to be your opponent in the final 2, or just like if someone's high rolling and you're high rolling, that you know you're going to be fighting them a lot towards the end of the game, and you're going to need to beat them in order to go first. So there's a ton of possible examples, but I'm not going to talk about all of them. These are just a few that I thought of that I can talk about. So it's just how you can think about these things. Conditional items, such as Guardbreaker, which does extra damage versus shields. So if you see some, like, let's say you're high rolling and you see someone else high rolling and they have Wrath of the Moon or they have Umbral spat, you know they're going to end in Umbral. A lot of their units are going to have permanent shields on them that last the entire fight until they break, of course. So Guardbreaker is going to give you a lot more value than it otherwise would. If you are getting the value off Guardbreaker off hitting shields, it's just an extremely strong item. Obviously, the item is balanced by the fact this is not always the case. But yeah, this is just one thing you can think about, and I'll talk about some more examples as well. Antiheal versus melee. So melee is most commonly if you see someone with like Heavenly +1, if you see someone with Bloodthirster, Hand of Justice, Edge of Night on stage 2, you can be pretty sure they're going to be trying to play towards likely Kayn or Lee Sin are some of the most common units in this set, in set 11 that you're going to see. So you can prioritize anti-heal even more highly than you normally otherwise would. Anti-heal is always good, but against melee, it's just super important. And this can also apply to augments such as Midnight Siphon or Drop Blossom or Lucky Pause. These are kind of hero augments that try to go infinite in a sense. So you can, prioritize anti-heal higher if you see one of those in your lobby. Lux versus Ethereal Blades. So Ethereal Blades, I don't think I've personally made a video on it, but basically it's a Shen hero augment where the entire board plays a lot of behemoths in order to buff Shen's damage, and it's very, very reliant on using Shen in the backline as a solo carry to provide pretty much 100% of the team's damage. So this could be a situation where if you have Last Whisper and Infinity Edge on stage 2, for example, and you're kind of debating whether you want to play towards Ashe or Kaisa, but you haven't really decided, if someone's playing Ethereal Blades in your lobby, it could be smart to play towards Ashe, because in that comp you can kind of fit in Lux for free, whereas it's very hard to fit it into a 4 trick shot board if you're playing Kaisa. And Lux will win you this matchup because she'll be stunning your opponent's Shen frequently, which is, again, it's going to be your opponent's only source of damage, especially if you're playing like Ashe Invokers, the meta version of the board. I have a video on that. So that's one thing like you can think about, for example. Syndra versus Heavenly. Syndra has a lot of single target damage and focuses down melee units. So Heavenly, of course, mostly by Heavenly, I'm mostly talking about Kayn or Lee Sin carry, and Syndra will be really good at providing a burst of damage to prevent these guys from drain tanking. Likewise, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have melee versus Hwei. So if you see someone going fast 9 and their board kind of revolves around playing around like AoE damage, such as like a 2-star 3-item Hwei, and maybe like a Lilia, for example, that's also doing area of effect damage, and a Rakan, units like these, a lot of times if you are playing that Heavenly board and you have an upgraded Kayn or upgraded Lee Sin with Omnivamp, you can actually just win this matchup because their board is actually just almost incapable of killing your single carry unit. So this is kind of two sides of the equation, whereas if you have like a super drain tank like 2-star Lee Sin, 2-star Kayn, it's going to be pretty bad into Syndra, which can still kill it in 1 or 2 casts, and it's going to be really good into AoE comps. Area of Effect. Giantslayer versus Bruiser, this is just a similar thing to Guardbreaker versus Umbral. If you see people angling Trick Shot, for example, they have Fortune, if they have something like Lucky Paws, if they have Bruiser +1, if they have Well Fed, then you can prioritize building Giantslayer a little bit more because, again, items such as Guardbreaker and Giantslayer are balanced around the fact that their conditional is not always active, but if your Giantslayer is always active, then it's just going to be an extremely high value item, and you can prioritize building it more. AP versus Bramble, so this is pretty simple. If people have Bramble in your lobby, it's almost a completely dead item if you're playing a full AP comp. I actually just got out of a game where my opening items were bow, tear, and glove. So basically I had bow, tear, glove. This was my opening items, and then I scouted and I saw that 2 people had Bramble very early in the game on stage 2. So because of this, I chose to make Static Shiv instead of Last Whisper and just play towards 8 AP. If I scouted and I saw 2 people have Dragon's Claw, for example, I might have just chose to make Last Whisper and play towards AD. That way, their Dragon's Claw has a lot less value against me. Dragon's Claw versus AP, this can go in the other way around as well. If you're kind of scouting and you see a lot of other people are trying to play AP, this could just be something if they have like Sage +1. If they have Faded Opener, they might be looking towards to play Syndra. If they have just items such as Shojin, Jewel Gauntlet, Spark even. Spark does reduce Dragon's Claw MR, but it does mean they're playing AP most likely, so Dragon's Claw is still very good into that. So if you're scouting and you see a lot of people in the lobby are playing AP, you can build Dragon's Claw. It'll give you a lot better matchups. You'll have 7 opponents, so for example, if 5 out of 7 are playing AP, then you're going to get a lot more value out of this item than you normally would. Burst versus Ramp, so this is basically, there are certain comps that kind of rely on scaling up. One of the most common ones, well, I shouldn't say common because it's not that meta right now, but throughout the entire set, Bard reroll with double Rage Blade was kind of reliant on the fight lasting a long time with a really strong 3-star Tahm Kench frontline, allowing the Bard to scale up with double Rage Blade. So if you can play a heavy burst comp, such as Duelists, that tends to have very, very fast fights, you're going to counter that matchup because the Bard is going to be doing very little damage until he gets those Rage Blade stacks later into the fight. Same thing if someone has like Ascension, either the Augment or needlessly Big Gem, the support item, or even the Talisman of Ascension, where they're kind of hoping the fight is going to go a long time, and you play a really fast comp, you're going to do well into it. Lissandra versus Melee, this is just another really pretty straightforward one where Lissandra crowd controls the unit she targets for 3 seconds. Let me just like pull up her ability here. Yeah, so current target, even at 1-star Lissandra, will stun them for 3 seconds. So against a comp such as Heavenly Kayn or Duelists with Lee Sin as their primary carry, stunning their carry for 3 seconds is extremely, extremely impactful. This is not that good against range carries because, of course, frontline units are mostly there to just absorb damage. So if you stun a frontline unit with Lissandra, it's not doing as much. But against a melee matchup, you can prioritize playing Lissandra a lot more. Just for example, like let's say you have I'm going to use a trick shot board because it's been meta for a lot throughout the set. So just for example, if you have kind of a standard trick shot board, 4 Bruiser, 4 trick shots, something like this. The most common addition, this is your level 8 board, the most common addition on level 9 usually is Udyr, and because that gives you Ink Shadow. However, like if you don't need your Ink Shadow item and you're going against one of those melee comps, then playing even a 1-star Lissandra can be a lot more valuable than getting an extra Ink Shadow item. This is not at all a comprehensive list of all the ways you can kind of build your board around your opponent's boards and your lobbies. As I mentioned at the start, you should kind of make these decisions based on who you're going to be expecting to fight at the end if you're kind of playing for first, which I think at the start of the game you generally are very frequently. But you can also kind of identify around like stage 3, like who's high rolling, who's not. For example, if all the AD players are really weak, even if there's more of them in the lobby, you might not need Bramble Vest because you can beat them anyway. Whereas all the AP players are really strong, so in that case, maybe you'd rather have Declaw, even if there's 3 AP players and 4 AD players, and your spot is above average. That's gonna wrap it up for this video on counter matchups. As always, check out the Discord. There's gonna be a discussion thread, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.